Hey guys, before we get started, Matt, you okay, buddy?
No, I don't want to record today.
You don't want to record today, man. It's our Sunday. This is what we do. We record. The Launchpad. What's going on, man? Why are you so bummed out? You sound really.
My nerd heart is broken. You know what this week is?
No, but now that you reminded me, I don't want to record either.
I'm like legitimately bummed out. Like I'm not in a good mood because it's Comic-Con.
I know.
And as you can see, I'm home.
Dude, we're gonna have to talk about it. But like, you know the term FOMO?
Yeah, oh, for sure, yeah.
Fear of missing out. Yeah, dude, I'm feeling that hard. I'm so full. We're a couple of FOMOs right now.
I look like a sad Jedi. If you're not watching on YouTube, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
You look like a sad Jedi who like just killed a bear. Like you're so fussy right now.
Yeah, I was going for like sad, depressed, listening to sad music with like towels over, like blankets over my head.
Dude. So this week is the Comic-Con FOMO episode because we missed out on Comic-Con and it fucking sucks. Mm-hmm. So today we're just gonna lament about that. I'm pissed off about a couple other things. So this will be a big pissy whiny.
This is our PMS episode.
We're all pissed off. All right, guys. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at LaunchpadPod on our website, launchpadpod.com. Follow us on YouTube. Check out our videos. See the tears glistening, wetting our cheeks with just sadness.
It's not funny, Rumi. Don't profit off of our tears. I'm upset. And I can't find my fucking coffee. So there's that now, too.
Damn it. See, you're drinking coffee. I'm cracking a beer. Let's do this.
For real. What the fuck did I do with it?
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
All right, welcome to Launchpad Podcast. I'm Aaron.
Could this day get any worse?
Sundays, am I right? Oh God, we got a mad case of the Sundays.
I'm mad.
So yeah, it's Comic-Con week, man, and like I'm just watching from afar, and I have a whole list of things that I'm like, I missed that. Oh, I fucking missed that. Damn it, we missed that. And like a bunch of my friends went, and they're sending like pictures and videos and stuff, and it's like, goddamn, looks like
I'm
fun.
on a Facebook message thread of like, hey, you guys want to meet at this hotel and grab some drinks? Yeah, let me show you the art haul that I got. Oh yeah, you guys going to this panel? And I'm not on Facebook all day, but every time I look on, it's like, you have 6 messages. And I'm like, ooh, is it about that art deal I'm working on? Is it about that famous person I'm reaching out to for an interview? It's like, nope, it's all these things that I want to be going to and I can't.
And because we are press, professional and press, I get all these like, hey, do you want to meet these fuckers? Do you want to go to this panel and get special access to this bullshit?
Yeah.
Hey,
you want to talk to Justin Rowland? Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I do. I really do. But fucking no, because we're not there. Because normally we get the time, I get the time off and I can hop on a plane and fly down and spend the whole week because The Walking Dead. Yeah, The Walking Dead panel had a bunch of announcements this week. I was like, cool, that's awesome. Thanks, guys. But like right off the bat, like yesterday I had this moment where like I saw an announcement and it threw me in this like tailspin of like, just here's what happened. Basically, Marvel dropped their like phase 5 and phase 6 announcements. And it was like, again, I'm kind of like over the whole Marvel thing, but in phase 6, they announced a Fantastic Four reboot, new comics and new movie. And I was like, 16-year-old me is jumping up and down. Like fucking 38, 30. How old am I? 38-year-old, 37-year-old me is like, Marvel, I'm not there to be excited. Also, you've conditioned me to not care anymore. So I just don't care. Like part of me, the inside, my inner child's like, fuck yeah, you love this shit. Because I'm the only person I know who likes Fantastic Four, who has ever read any of the comics. I don't know how they've lasted this long. But then again, 38-year-old me is like, I only care about it if it's about me or my child or something I make. So really, what's the term? It's like narcissistic, but also nihilistic. So it's like I don't give a shit unless it's about me. So it's like
nihilistic.
Nihilistic. Yeah, it's that's how I feel right now. So it's unless it's about my podcast, my kid, something I've written, or some shit that I'm doing. Fuck you, Marvel. Thanks.
Real cool, Marvel. Real cool.
So yeah, that's what put me in a tailspin right there.
Not going because of not being able to get the time off from work? Is that the main reason you're not there?
Yeah. If I had the time off, I would have thought about it. Again, how many of my friends are going to come back from San Diego Comic-Con racked with COVID and like sick for a week? But like,
right, that's why I'm not going.
But I had it and it sucked. But it's like I've been boosted. I do the best I can. So it's like I don't know. Would it be worth it? The last time I got COVID, I went to a bitchin' wedding in New York. That was like, well, I didn't die. Nobody else I knew died. So worth it. Everybody got like 60 people got COVID.
I remember when you told me that.
But it was almost worth it, fucking great.
That's the only reason I'm not going. I don't have anything huge at Comic-Con this year. I mean, there's plenty of panels and people and art and artists and booths that I would have loved to go see specifically, but I purposely didn't cast the interview net out too wide. I went after some huge big fish to see if it would happen. And if that happened, I would have went. But it was just like, I just spent a lot of money on a big deal and a bitchin' Predator statue. So I don't know, like, it's not hurting me to not spend money on hotels, but for me, there was nothing specifically drawing me there except the overall nerd experience. It's almost like if you were pretty Catholic and the week before Christmas, you decided as like an adult decision, right or wrong, as an adult, you were like, you know what? I'm not going to do Christmas this year. But you saw the parade on NBC. Everybody's houses are decorated. You go on social media and you see pictures and videos of everybody opening their presents. I mean, just the pictures of people that I know holding other people that I don't know who aren't even famous, just their friends on the floor, the exhibit hall. It's just like, fuck, man, like that is my weekend. You know what I mean? Those are like some of the most fun 4 days in the entire year for me.
I always joke that if I died and woke up at Comic-Con, I wouldn't know where I went. It is in those same 4 days, heaven and hell for me. There's at least the 3 times that I've gone, there's always a moment where I'm like, this is hell. I'm in hell right now. This is the worst thing I could possibly, like, there's too many people. Like I've tweaked my knee. My knees always give out at Comic-Con for some reason. They're like, hey, I picked this week to stop working. We're going on strike. Fuck you. Or like my shoe, like I buy new shoes to like, so I can stay on my feet all day. That's a terrible idea. Whoever like never buy new shoes to start standing on your feet all day. But I always do something to hurt myself. And like, cousin Mike was like, well, I'm going to run to the drugstore and get you a knee brace. I was like, thanks, cousin Mike.
Cousin Mike, dude, cousin Mike didn't go either. So for those of you who listen but don't know our Comic-Con deal, I have a cousin Mike who lives on the East Coast. He and I are super different. We don't really have a ton of stuff in common, except growing up, we both played sports. So anytime we had family, he's like an extended cousin. Anytime we had a family get together, he and I would just kill it with sports. And he's the nicest guy in the world. And then when I moved out to California, I put something about comics on social media. And he was like, wait, you like comics? I was like, yeah, you like comics? And we never knew that each other was nerds in that regard. And then since then, we became the Comic-Con cousins. And because I can get in, I've gotten him into Comic-Con, I think every single year except 1 year he couldn't come. And he's just the fucking man. And we've been on a lot of adventures at Comic-Con, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk. You want to talk about some of that? I want to talk about.
I do. He became our unofficial roadie or official roadie.
Official, I don't know. Yeah. He's like
our official roadie.
He's just
he'd be
best.
like, what can I carry? You want me to carry that tripod? All right. I'm like,
so
well,
I think
because might take his picture while we hang out with Kevin Eastman.
That's the thing is, I think the first year, it was either the first or the second year he came, was when I was hosting Geek Out for you. So Rumi had this idea to make this show called Geek Out that was like a news magazine show about nerd stuff.
Well, and here's how that. Yeah, let me set that up a little bit more. So
I remember you calling me and pitching this to me.
So there was a network that was trying to get off the ground, and they were looking for content, and they were like, any content. What do you got? And I was like, I want to pitch this, and they're like, shoot a pilot. We don't care how rough it is. Just show the proof of concept, and we're looking to do it. And so that's what we did. I was like, all right, I got a little bit of money together, a very little bit of money. And we got some people, and it was from day one. It's like, Matt's got to be one of the hosts. And I got Matt and this awesome cosplayer named Valerie, who she's like very well known in the Wonder Woman cosplay. So again, she does lots of cool cosplay, but, she was on board, and they went down to Comic-Con and did like some interviews, and it was awesome.
Like, that's the thing is, like, she was cool and had a lot of nerd cred. Not only did she look like Wonder Woman and had a great body and was good at cosplaying, but like, she had the nerd cred to back it up. She could talk about video games. She could talk about action figures, whatever. Yeah. And you wrote a whole script for us to talk about different things and pose different questions about who would be our nerd sensei. Would it be Master Splinter? Would it be Spock? I think we had something with like two different, franchises fighting each other, all these different things. And we shot it in front of a green screen in an apartment, and, all these different news things where we would be. What our themed, nerd themed bedroom would look like was one of them. And Comic-Con happened to be, I think, the week or the weekend after that. And Valerie and I were both going. So after we shot all that, she and I were like, let's meet up at Comic-Con for a day, and we'll just shoot some, B-roll and some stuff that we can cut to from the talking heads that her and I were doing, right? And she's like, oh, that's cool, because I'll have my own cameraman. Sweet. Yeah. Her own cameraman had a fucking Steadicam rig. Remember that?
Yeah, the whole setup. He had like lavs, cameras, everything.
And now this is where, like, I will never win the lottery. I will never win money, but I'm the luckiest person in this kind of stuff. Like, this Comic-Con is like where I am lucky. So her and I hook up at the con. We don't actually hook up. She wasn't that lucky. We got this guy who's got a fucking alien smart gun camera, right? So he's got great shit. We're walking around and we're just doing random on the spot interviews with whoever we can find. And we walk by one of the movie prop booths. I think it was Profiles in History's booth.
Profiles in History, yeah.
And they had all these bitchin' Watchmen costumes, but they also had a King Kong hand with Jessica Lange's costume on it from the 76 King Kong, which we had specifically referenced. I had said would be my bed for the theme that so it's like we randomly said this shit, and we walk into Comic-Con and there's a fucking display in a booth there. So we got in there, we talked to them, we got to shoot around it, shoot in front of it. And it was like friggin' awesome. And now I'm pretty sure this is Cousin Mike's first, if not second Comic-Con. And it's like, hey, by the way, we're not going to get to like walk around the panels and shit today, but we're going to do all these interviews. And then we bump into, we're interviewing a cosplayer, and behind us, there's a booth called Mayfire, and they're doing online digital streaming comic book content.
Yeah, this was before comics were even like online. Really, this was like
it was its own thing, and it was an indie label kind of that was putting stuff up. And who is at their booth? Dave fucking Gibbons,
yeah.
And while Valerie is doing an on-camera interview with this cosplayer that she knows, I'm standing behind the guy with the steady rig, and the guy from Mayfire comes up and he's like, hey, would you guys come and interview us at our booth? And I'm like, yeah, sure. He's like, we have Dave Gibbons. And I was like, fuck yeah, we'll come and interview you at our booth. So we got to do that. I got to fucking meet Dave Gibbons, talk to him. I was literally in the process of an art deal for an original Watchmen piece at that time that was published in
which is 11. Now on your wall.
And so like we did it, and I got to tell him that, and he said, I'm a big nerd. He told me about his favorite piece that he eventually tracked down, and it was just so fun. It's one of those, and this happens a lot to me at Comic-Con, where I'm like, I cannot believe that this is happening. Like, what luck that these three things just happened in the last 4 minutes to get me to this spot.
That was the one where you met up with the Famous Monsters and Filmland guys, which opened a lot of doors for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. That's right. They gave me and Valerie t-shirts. I was just looking at pictures of that the other day. It was just, and then friggin' cool. Mike is just like, oh, so Comic-Con is when we do all these interviews and we meet one of the creators of Watchmen. And it's like, and I remember being like, it's probably not going to be like this every time, but it's pretty much been like that every time.
Yeah. The podcast has let us like talk to some ridiculous people and meet ridiculous people and do ridiculous things and just be like, podcast, we got podcasts. And people are like, oh, I guess you can do really ridiculous shit. Fucking go for it.
We've hosted 3, I think panels? 2 live and 1 pandemic panel for Famous Monsters.
Yeah. Hosting panels. Yeah. I want to do that. Gone to some cool panels, talked to some awesome people. But before we get too far away from it, what ended up happening with that show was, so then I take it back, I package it together and they're like, great. We love it. Okay, cool. We're going to do it. But we want to control the casting. We want to hire some famous people. And it was like, oh, and they're like, so you're going to have to tell your host that we're going to fire them. I was like, oh. And that's a heartbreaker. That broke my heart to do. And I do it. And then like 2 weeks later, they're like, oh, well, the network, we ran out of money and we're suing each other. So it's like, that's 2 weeks ago. You probably knew that this was going to happen.
Right.
You made me deliver bad news to 2 people that are my friends and then fold. Like you had to have known you were folding before that. You could have just said, okay, cool. We're going to sit on it. And then just don't.
It was my fault. I was double dipping trying to get more money. I was the famous person they wanted. And they came back to me and I was like, $4 million, bitch. They were like, nope.
Like, and shit. So ridiculous. But like, that's been my Hollywood experience is like, I'm on the verge of something cool. And then people are like, well, actually we're going to.
That show was pretty cool though. I was proud of it. And I would have to think that you were immensely proud of it because you did so much for it. Like you made a lot from nothing.
Me and my buddy, Ryan Wilmot, we produced a show. We produced it. We put it out. It's, it was fun. It was cool. And it was a good thing to do. And I'm proud that we did it. I'm just so bummed with like the end result of where it went. But because of that, I was like, look, I don't want to have to produce something every time. It's a nightmarish amount of work. So let's do a podcast. And like that put me on the, like, how do I make something with Rumi? How do I keep making things with Rumi? And that definitely was a genesis of the podcast, like sort of the proto podcast, the proto launch pad, if you will. But it was, I wanted to call it the Launchpad. Nobody would let me do it because they're like, this doesn't make any sense. It's too.
People still tell me that for the podcast. They're like, your podcast is great. It's not a great name. And I'm like, it's the fucking Launchpad, bro.
Every time
I understand from a marketing standpoint, but I mean, come on. It's fucking awesome. The graphic you made is awesome. I like the colors.
Yeah, but what else am I calling it? The Geekcast.
Nerd Out Podcast. Nerding everywhere.
Yeah, it's, it fits us. So yeah, let's talk about, so then after that, I was like, there's no way I'm not going to Comic-Con. I have to go. Like, I got to do this. So the next year, I wasn't on Walking Dead yet, but I was like, I got to go. And you and I went out there and I had the big recorder. It was like the big shoulder bag recorder with the microphones and all the wires and we're tangled up. And my favorite thing that we did, and it's a 4-part series. You can find that on the internet.
Oh yeah. That was a good year.
One of my favorite ones that we did was the day we interviewed all the people who didn't want to be there. Probably one of the biggest strokes of genius. I think you had, but
yeah, set that up.
So we're looking here, we're in line for something. We're all giddy and having a great time. And then we're like, look at that bus driver. He is not having any fun. That bus driver is miserable. Oh man. I mean, he's getting paid to be here and he obviously hates this. And then we're like, look at that security guard. That person does not want to be here today. This is like a Saturday and they're just getting paid to be here and like babysit these dorks. And they have to be like, move along. And the dorks are like, nah, make me. Nah. That's me, actually. I'm the one who's being like, make me.
But I need to go to the bathroom before I go see fucking Frodo.
Yeah. And there's like, there's a lot of marketing people who are paid to be there, like at booths. That's like, hey, I'm trying to sell you enterprise credit cards or rental cars. And it was just like
2 young, cute girls wearing Transformer t-shirts with different Transformers on them.
Yeah.
They were doing an Enterprise Transformers promo. So I like flirted with them. I was like, oh yeah, which one's your favorite? She's like, this one. And I was like, do you know what his name is? She's like, oh no, I don't know anything about this. Really? And that got me thinking.
Yeah. And it turned into let's talk to the people who are paid to be here, who don't want to be here. They have to be here. This is their job today. They're at work, and we are crashing their work in spectacular fashion. And it was so funny because you're like, so are you into nerd stuff? And some people be like, well, I mean, there's so much of it here and it's intriguing. And some people are like, no, this is dumb and I don't want to be here. And you guys,
I'm just here till 6. This is my job.
Guys are like, you motherfuckers are sleeping to watch a trailer that's going to be on YouTube in 10 minutes. Like, just because you want, like, you slept on the street of San Diego like a homeless person because you wanted to see a trailer 10 minutes
and you
before
bought
other
a $600 hotel room stay for the night. You're just choosing not to use that.
You wanted to sleep on the street so you could see a trailer 10 minutes before everyone else. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But my favorite had to be the lady guarding the door.
Yep.
Because like we tried to go out a door and they were like, I'm sorry, sir, you can't go that way. And we're like, okay, wait, do you want to talk? And she was like, yeah, I guess. And her name was Maria, I think. And she was telling us about getting like arrested in Mexico. And like,
you're right.
She was like, but who is Iron Man? And we're like, what do you mean? But she's like, but like, do we know his identity? And I'm like, the real Iron Man? And she's like, wait, he's not real? And you're like, oh no.
I jumped to, we took pictures of her like pulling you back from a door. She was super cool. And then it got to the point where like she asked a question about Iron Man and I started explaining the comic. Well, he's a billionaire and he has this suit. And she's like, but is it based on a real guy? And I was like immediately, because I love doing this to people. I was like, absolutely. Like, obviously the comics are more embellished, but there was a man in real life who was so rich. And I tell this whole fucking thing. And then I see Rumi is listening. And I think like, are you listening and you're believing half of this? And I could see in your face that you were kind of on the fence too.
Well, I was like racking my brain like, wait, Matt's always full of shit, but he's so convincing. Like he's always doing this. I didn't buy it, but I was also like, wait, is he referencing something that like, obviously there isn't an Iron Man, but is he referencing like a William Randolph Hearst is like some guy's so rich? Like, no, I think I would have heard that.
That was a good one. That was fucking funny. We
fucking
also
hysterical.
weren't we doing something in a more highbrow moment? Were we doing something with farts?
Oh,
someone farted in our face or something. They walked by us. We
were sitting in the hall because, like, again, my feet gave out or whatever. I have incredibly flat feet, so if I have to walk around a bunch, like my arches give out, and then I'm like in horrible pain. So we were sitting on the floor, just whipping out the podcast gear, because that was the coolest thing about the Comic-Con is if you're tired and you need to take a break, just pop the squat on the floor and whip out the podcast gear.
Yeah, that's
start
right.
Talking, and like we did this multiple times where we just like found a quiet, quote unquote quiet corner and just started talking shit. And we're sitting there, and this guy walked past and just like ripped a duck.
Right as he walked past us, and our head was like ass level. And he and Aaron and I both heard it.
Both heard it. Like, I think it's on, you can catch it on the microphone. Like it was just, it was a cacophony of crass ass. And it was, and then from that point on.
That's a podcast name right there.
Cacophony of crass ass. So from that point on, we were just like embellishing what people were saying as they would walk by and fart on us. Like, look at these two boys with microphones. Wonder what they're talking about. Doesn't matter. I'm going to fart on 3, 2, 1.
On my way to Hall H to watch the new trailer drop.
That was fucking great. It was so funny. And like, again, we had a really good time. We got to do some cool shit. Met some cool people again. Like every year we go, we have somehow landed a great interview with Kevin Eastman, the creator of the Ninja Turtles. Mm-hmm. And David Avalone, who is like one of the co-writers of some of the Ninja Turtle stuff and also does the Elvira comic, and Ben Bishop, writer of the Ninja Turtles. But like every year, like it escalates like to the point where he's like, oh, hey, what's up, guys? Like, I don't know if he knows our names, but he knows us enough. Yeah,
he recognizes us for sure.
You guys, yeah. Hey, you guys, I talk to you every year.
And did you see on this year, he did the flashback scenes for what happened to the Ninja Turtles. So essentially the death of the Ninja Turtles in The Last Ronin.
Yeah. He's
going to be in a new book that was just announced, I think, yesterday about the lost years. So the years where they right before The Last Ronin. Oh, cool. And also NECA is not only making Last Ronin figures, but they're making figures of the 4 turtles as, you know, like in their last throws, which are his designs. So he has NECA action
so it's
figures.
gonna be like Raphael filled with arrows.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if he's filled arrows, but I saw him in the armor and he's like all roided out. Like it looks very body count-ish. Pretty cool. Yeah. But
speaking of body count, I finally finished my body count display. I got the Raphael Casey Jones 2-pack, and I painted Casey Jones to have the cool American flag
mask.
And I just ordered the McFarlane mega weapons pack that they released for Spawn or something.
Yeah,
a bunch of big guns, and I put them in Raphael. Like Raphael's holding these big guns down. He's like jumping in, and I have them on these cool like levitating stands that are, like make it look like they're flying, so they're like falling through the window for the famous panel of them like falling.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
The guns. It's really cool. Yeah. And I painted like Casey J, like they match. They look really good. Like it looks like they're from the movie. It's like body count toys. I love doing little custom things like that when it's not too hard. But yeah, so we end up talking to Kevin Eastman, and not the first year, but one year we went and we got him to sign our body count covers, our body count books.
I think that wasn't the first year. That was the second year.
Second year. Yeah. That was
not only did we get to sign, like not only did we get to do it, to sign stuff, but Courtney, his wife, and I don't know if she's his manager technically, but she's somewhere high in his company. She had us cut this whole line, which is pretty fucking cool.
And everybody was mad about it. Yeah, everybody's really mad. And we're like, no, it's cool. We're doing a thing. And they were like, you're like,
it's like a guy at work there was like, hey, you can't cut. I was like, Courtney says we can.
But yeah, we had interviews with him, always doing stuff with the Famous Monsters, which I guess Famous Monsters got sold and somebody else bought it. We got to see if they're cool. We got to hook up with them.
That was a fun collaboration and collaboration that happened. And then they called us one year and were like, hey, can you guys take over our podcast for a couple weeks? And we were like super excited, but also shitting ourselves. But then we just had so much fun with it. And I think we did a good enough job because then they kept asking us to moderate panels and work with them and do some stuff with them. That was super. I mean, we have really done some really fucking cool stuff.
Really cool stuff. And, getting to see all the cool cosplay. We play this game that Matt taught me, and it's called You're Winning. And it's where you just walk up to somebody in a bitchin' cosplay and you just say, you're winning. And then
they have to win. They have to be beaten whoever we set it to last time. So like Ludo from the Labyrinth was winning. But then we saw a guy who had a homemade Beast from X-Men costume. And I would say that was better than Ludo. So you say you're winning, but you don't throw it around. It's got to be.
No.
It's real shit.
One of my favorite ones that we saw was, this might have been in WonderCon, so this might not count, but I still got to talk about it. It was a guy in a X-Men 97, like the old 90s X-Men cartoon. He was in a Sentinel costume, full on Sentinel costume. And he had the original like X-Men figures like affixed to it. So they looked like they were fighting him.
Yeah.
Like tiny little X-Men figures fighting a giant Sentinel. And I was like, that is so clever. He won. We saw this awesome fairy that had like a robot mask and like wings that would open and close and the eyes would move around. The mouth.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Like
it was like the eyes were remote controlled, so you could look at the eyes were following you. It was well done.
Super impressive. One of the ones that, probably not the best one, but like made us laugh was we were walking down. I was like, oh my God, turn around. And me and Matt, like, he's like, what is it? What is it? I was like, somebody was just Buffalo Bill, but naked Buffalo Bill.
Yep. And that's on my Facebook feed today. And it's me and him. And he's in just flesh colored shorts. He's got long curly hair and he's got that like robe open kimono, and he's standing with his feet together or his knees together. And I wrote, would you cosplay? I'd cosplay so hard.
Would you cosplay as me? I'd cosplay me so hard. Yeah, that was hysterical. The Bob's Burgers dressed as one of the bronies.
Yeah, that was good.
That was
really we
funny.
did a kid interview that day. Remember that?
Yeah.
There was a little tiny little boy or a little like in a stroller.
Yeah.
And they wanted to play with the microphone. We were like, fuck it. We interviewed because the whole family was in Bob's costumes, right?
I just watched the Bob's Burgers movie.
How was it?
It was good. I laughed.
Amanda and I kind of fell off like a season or so ago. Not really the show's fault. We just stopped.
You absolutely do not need to be up to date with the show to watch the movie.
Yeah, I figured that would be.
The movie is just an hour-long episode of the show. Gail's not in it, so perfect. No notes.
So the first year I ever went to Comic-Con, I was actually working for Nickelodeon. A buddy of mine was producing some Nickelodeon stuff, and he was like, listen, we need to hire a local intern as part of our contract. Just literally like we're going to have, talent in our booth and we'll be taking pictures. So I just need you to chase people and get releases. He's like, it'll be like 4 or 5 hours of that a day. And I'll get you a hotel, get you everything else. You can come. And then the rest of the day is yours. You could do whatever. So I went there by myself my first year and I did that. And the Nickelodeon shit was funny as hell. Number one, it tells you when it was. Numerous people came up to me, not to ask if I had won Wipeout, but to say, were you on My Cat from Hell on Animal Planet? Like, I'm telling you, like 6 people. I was like, and taking pictures and shit. I was like, really? And like, I've since done bigger things. And even then, I thought Wipeout was a bigger deal. Nobody asked me about that.
Are you the Ginger Ninja? That's so funny.
I don't think I was not collecting original art yet.
Yeah.
I was into comics, but there's just so much there. So I had 2 or 3 hours a day after work to kind of walk around the floor. So I was doing that and shit. I saw Thomas Jane. He was walking around with no shoes, which I determined was janing. So now to this day, if I ever see someone in public with no shoes, that's called janing. And I took pictures of that. And Rumi, and I think we've talked about on the show before, I'm wearing gym shorts right now, but if I'm wearing cargo pants, which is my normal going out pants, I usually have my utility belt on. I have a multi-tool, a flashlight. I used to have a cell phone holder. And then if I was going somewhere, I would have a digital camera on there too. I always have a first aid kit, a pad and a pencil, water bottles, usually some sort of food, all in my cargos. I'm like fucking Predator. I have everything I need for any sort of hunt, right? So that year, I was like, I'm going to take utility belt pictures. So it was me and Boba Fett, me and Batman, me and Cable, whoever I saw that had utility belts or pouches, we were pointing, and I took dozens of pictures of that. Some of them are pretty funny, but through the years, I changed different things. There was one series I did called Tired Nerds. And I would just take pictures of sleeping idiots anywhere, like sleeping on the steps outside, sleeping on the floor in line. I was just taking pictures of these nerds sleeping, which is, I didn't think about it till later, but probably looked pretty creepy to anybody watching.
Hey, nerd, you tired? It is wonderful. And then the first year that you took me, we went to the comic book civil defense fund or whatever it's called.
Always comic book legal defense fund. Yeah.
You took me to the auction and that was wild. I ended up with a piece. I got it right here. I got it on my wall. It's my 28 Days Later original art. And the thing awesome. Was, I was like, oh, I have about $100 that I'm willing to spend on this. And you got to be fast when you are flipping those paddles, because they're like $100, $100. I was like, boo, and they were like $100, $150. I was like, well, fuck. Like, so it was more than I wanted to spend on it, but I'm happy with it. It's a good piece.
Cool, man. It's original art. And I think it's very fitting for you. If you guys didn't just watch the YouTube or if you're not watching the YouTube right now and saw Rumi just show the page, it's like a 4 or 5 panel page of horizontal panels of a zombie horde approaching camera. And I think it's a very good single out of context page for you to have. That auction is one of my favorite things to go to. I go every year.
I would absolutely go to the auction again. I'm not into collecting the original art like you are. I appreciate it though, and I love going and I love looking through it. So I would go to that, because here's the thing. We were there and there was a Frank Miller piece and it went for a lot of money. And we were sitting next to this guy who was bidding, and he was bidding against, like, I don't know, some lady in a wheelchair who'd you call the
we call her Martha Wayne, because there's a family me and my cousin Mike call the Waynes. And they come in with deep pockets every year and just boom, 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 pull those pieces down. And sometimes, like in this case, 2 people start bidding over one piece and everybody else just stands back and watches. It's like 7,000, 8,000. And you're just fucking clapping, man. That's just cool.
What did I think that went for 17 grand. And when it was like 15, 6, like, and it starts slowing down a little bit where people are like, and the guy's looking at me and Rumi, you're like, dude.
Yeah, that's right.
Because he's looking around like, should I do it, guys? And everybody's like, Dude, get that
Spend
shit.
your money.
Right? Yeah. Look, not my money. Do it, dude. And he got this Frank Miller piece, which is just, it's awesome. And like, there was original EC comic pieces, like covers from
the last couple of years they did
Tales
it.
from the Crypt.
The last couple of years they did it. They had, I can't remember his name now, Gabriel, whatever, the artist from Lock and Key. And he was live doing a giant easel piece from Lock and Key. And then at the end of the night, they auctioned that one off. And it was cool because you got to check in with him and watch it. You could look over his shoulder. It's just a fun ass night. It used to be kind of co-repped by IDW. I'm not sure if it still is, but when it was, there was, I don't know if it was the year you were there, but there was a year they had a bunch of Dinosaurs Attacks comic pages from the new comic. And I went up to this guy who turned out to be the president of IDW at the time. And I walked up to him and I was like, listen, I don't know if you know, but this is based on an old card series. You don't happen to know where the card art is? And he's like, I have most of it. I was like, get the fuck out. I was like, I'm a huge fan. I've been looking, developed a friendship with this guy. I've now since bought a couple cards from him. And like, literally, like I called him the other day to bullshit about art. Like we're literally friends now. And it's just like one of those Comic-Con things where like, I went down to IDW to buy card art off this guy. He then gave me a tour of IDW. We went out to lunch and we're friends now. And it's like, that's fucking Comic-Con, you know? And I love that shit. I love it. It's so fun.
The last year that I went, I was on Walking Dead and it was a big season because I designed a logo for Walking Dead.
That's right.
And they used it in all of the promotional material. And Walking Dead is a huge sponsor of Comic-Con. They put a ton of art up and like elevators will have Walking Dead stuff all over it. And they do a big deal. And so like to see something that you drew plastered everywhere. And then you walk into Hall H, which is, if you've never been there, it's undescribably large. It's the largest room I've ever walked into in my life. It is airplane hangar after airplane hangar. Thousands and thousands of people can fit in there. And like they have these giant movie theater sized screens all over the place. And it's like your art, boom, bigger than life, 3 stories tall, that thing that you drew. And it's like, that's amazing. And then to like get to see people actually be excited, because most of my interaction with the fans of Walking Dead, it's either people who are like, I'm obsessed, or it's like people like, you suck. Why are you still in the air? Fuck, this blows. Why are you like, quit trying, kill yourself? Like there's no in between. So to see real fans who want to be there, to be excited about the thing that you're working on was like pretty magical. And to see the trailer drop that you worked on, that you put a lot of work into, that you did VFX for, that you put a lot of stuff into, and to see people go ape shit. And then the moment where you're like, this is the part they're going to go nuts. And then boom, it happens. And they all go, ah, and like gasp, like audible gasp. Like that's a great feeling. And like, that's why I get into what I do, because you want to experience that. But like when you do TV, you don't really get to see that as much anymore. You don't get to see the, oh my God, they did that. Like I sometimes will like when Walking Dead is on the air, I'll like watch the Reddit thread or the live tweets of it, and like people get excited, and that's cool. That's really cool. I love doing that. So that was an amazing moment. And then get to see all my coworkers who are like, well, Aaron's got nothing to do. Do you want? I was like, no, actually, I gotta go interview Kevin Eastman, and we're gonna try and get Frank Miller. And people are like, what? It's like, yeah, I have a podcast. The Walking Dead is like the last thing I'm here to do. That was just a side thing. I'm here to do stuff.
I remember there was a year where you flew into an interview. Like I think it was, we were at the Sideshow booth, and you literally like walked into the interview after like a minute or two after we'd started it. And it was, I think, a day where you literally only had 1 day or 2 days with us. Yeah. I drove down on my own, which I am terrible at. I can't drive for long periods of time without falling asleep. Like if I'm in the car for over an hour, whether I'm driving or not, it's fucked. I'm just immediately conked out. So me driving down to San Diego was a task. What a task. That was so hard. But I did it, and it was great. It was so fun to roll up and do it. Like literally I'll be driving and like my mind will be like, hey, Aaron. I'll be like, what? Who's that? It's like, it's your eyes. I'm like, both of you? And they're like, yeah. Hey, one of us is going to close.
and we're going to get a nap. The other one will totally stay open. I'm like,
I have an idea.
this makes sense. Okay. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, you said one of you was going to stay open. They're like, oh, we didn't pick who it was. So we both fell asleep. Sorry, Aaron. I'm like, guys, come on. Okay, we'll try it again. And then, oh God, when you start hitting that rumble strip and you're like, oh God, okay, guys, you keep lying to me. Eyes lie the most. I'm just saying, of all the body parts, like you'd think it'd be your junk. Nope, it's your eyes. Your eyes will lie to you nonstop.
My hips don't lie.
Shakira joke.
I remember. That's hardcore that you knew it was Shakira. I just knew it was a female singer. From a genre of music I don't know. There was another photo series I did one year where it was me being spooned, like I was the little spoon in a cuddle of bigger female/feminine characters. Like I know there were 2 female Thors and they were giant women and I let them snuggle me. And there was one where it was a giant Care Bear, like furry costume. They snuggled me. I have to look and see who else it was. I think one of them was Hawk Girl, and she was this big, roided out Hawk Girl with big wings. Snuggle me. And all my pictures, I was snuggling.
That's hilarious. Remember Pink Wookie?
Oh, yeah.
And the 50 Fabulous?
Yep.
I love Pink Wookie so much. He's one of my favorite Instagram accounts to follow, and one of my favorite cosplayers. He's a giant Pink Wookie, and that's it. But he has like stickers that he passes out. Pink Wookie, I have him on some of my stuff. And he travels with a team of cosplayers that dress in Star Wars, but all pink. So it's like the 50 Fabulous, and Han Dangle was like a guy dressed as Lieutenant Dangle from Reno 911, but Han Solo. So it's like and pink. So it's just like there's Admiral Pink Akbar, who was obviously
that's right. I forgot about that Akbar. One. Yeah, that's like right. I knew there was a third person.
Every year they add more people. One year there's a pink Twi'lek with them. Like they keep adding people to the 50 Fabulous, and it's just fun. What a fun crew.
What about? Do you remember?
He's got a great costume too, because the mouth moves when he's like
of the Wookiee. Yeah, it's real. It's one of those costumes, and this happens all the time, right? Where you walk over and you're like, "Oh, can I get a picture?" And because they stop moving, they get flooded, right? Then suddenly they have to take 20 pictures in a row. Boom, 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 boom.
Mm-hmm.
Remember at the pavilion upstairs, we saw those mariachis. They were just like 2 white guy gringos dressed like mariachis in these big flowery capes. And they had little alcohol bottles all over them. Yeah. And they were just fucking dancing. And they gave us like a wacky ass interview. And you guys really should, if you haven't, go back and listen to some of our Comic-Con stuff, because I think it's very indicative of the show, right? I think we've done some amazing interviews, right? Diana Schutz, editor extraordinaire. Some of the stuff we talk about with her is fucking fantastic. The anecdotes and stuff that she has talking about how she stalked and bumped into Frank Miller on the street, and he recognized her from her name.
Her name, because she was writing into his comic book, giving him shit. Like being like, you could be better if you did this. Like,
and she was the only woman, and she's like, I wrote to you, and he's like, you must be Diana Schutz. It's just, we've done some amazing interviews with Ann Innocente, who is a huge Daredevil writer from the 90s, as well as a bunch of other things. But we've done some of these interviews, and then also talked to these drunk ass mariachis. There's been times where I've interviewed you after you choked on a hot dog. You know, it's like it runs the gamut of the launch pad, you know, like the truly prepared, in-depth, nerdy shit.
If you're dressed in Star Wars, we give you a quiz. Like,
oh, that's right. There was a whole year we were doing that.
We were doing Star Wars quizzes to see who knew what. It's like, if you're dressed in a Star Wars outfit, do you want to take the quiz? And surprisingly, nerd cred, people knew their shit, you know, for the most part. You know, because it's like, you know, if you're going to spend that much money, though, you're going to know more than the average person, I think, right?
And I think our quiz was good, because I think our quiz had a couple easy ones, like I would say, like, name all 3 members of the original Max Rebo band. I feel like that's a pretty easy question.
Yeah.
But then we had some tougher ones, you know. I bet you I still have that quiz somewhere. That's
you should pull it out.
That was our first one, I think.
Yeah, that was really fun. Holy shit.
What are some give me a couple like standout moments of Comic-Con for you?
Oh man. scoring exclusives is always a big, like, I love it when I can like
toys and
like
merchandise.
One of the things I'm so upset that I'm not getting is the NECA exclusive thing toy that's at San Diego Comic-Con. I didn't get it when they had their web sale, and I missed it when I'm not going to get it now. But scoring that, Sideshow is always a highlight for me. When we get
just going and browsing.
No. When we go interview Dave,
Andy and Dave,
Andy and Dave at Sideshow, they are hilarious. They're really funny. I always have to edit the shit out of that one because he's always like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't say that on company time. Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that." And then he's always like, "Can you edit that out? I don't want my company hearing me say that." But I also love seeing the shit. And this year, I bought the bitchin' Darth Vader on fire statue that will be coming, and at San Diego Comic-Con they revealed the physical statue, so I could have gone and seen the thing that will be sitting on my shelf in the next couple of years whenever they finally release it. But like seeing people taking footage of that and being like, I will own that. And it's like, I want to see it. I want to see how big it is. I want to touch it. You and me taking photos of me kissing predators was really funny. There was a bunch of ones where we did that. Yeah.
Because it was like a Sideshow 1-to-1 predator head maquette, right? Like it was busts. And I had you pretending to smooch each one.
Yeah. There's like a bunch of photos of me smooching predators.
Again, like we've interviewed Eisner Award-winning comic book creators and also had you kissing Sideshow statues.
Sideshow statues. Meeting Godzilla was a huge one for me.
Oh, yeah. That was a good day.
So we went and we met with like the guy who's in charge of like Godzilla merchandise for America.
Chris
Mowry. Yeah. And he got distracted talking to us and was like, "Oh God, I got to show you this." And like whipped out pictures on his phone. It was a great moment in radio, guys. Great moments in radio.
It really was. And then he's like, "I'll send you all these pictures," and just disappeared.
And never
wrote us back.
And never talked to us again. The funniest thing about that though, it's like, it's literally, I had to edit the shit out of it because it would have been just this. And here's my cool poster. Whoa. And he's like, and this one.
Remember this toy?
Yeah. Oh, it's just like me and Matt, like just gushing all over his collection.
And that happens to us sometimes. Like Zeb Wells is a good example. Dave Gibbons does it too, where like it starts as an interview, but then just turns into nerding out. And it's no longer like they're on one side of a table and we're on the other. It just feels like we're fucking nerding out. And I think, again, that's part of the magic of Comic-Con, because I think a lot of people who go there, even creators, are there because it's fun and they love that shit, you know, and that, or at least those are the best people to talk to, you know? Yeah.
And, but then he's like, "Hey, you guys want to cut the line and see the Godzilla costume?" It was the Godzilla costume from Godzilla 2000. One of my favorite looking costumes. It's a really cool, mean looking Godzilla. It's a cool iteration of it. Not the best movie, but a really cool costume. Getting to see the actual suit was like, whoa.
Because you and I love practical effects. We specifically love that character and franchise. Cutting that line is always a really cool feeling, right?
Yeah. Let these douchebags with microphones cut everybody online. Everybody's mad at you and you're like, podcast.
Sorry, we're famous.
And I was surprised how small the costume was. Because like Godzilla, like he looks like he's, 30
You thought he was
tall.
Like 30 or 40 something stories tall.
Yeah, I really did. Lo
and behold, it was human size.
Smaller than human size, but it makes sense. Like, you want the smallest, you want the ratio that fits the smallest amount of costume you have to build to the size of buildings. Because if you had a really big person, you're going to have to build bigger buildings. So it's like, we want to build the smallest buildings to look realistic and have the biggest costume to look realistic to those buildings. So it's like they found a nice sweet spot for it, and it's like, but also then you realize, like, when you watch Godzilla like sloshing through the water in this costume, like that must be horrifying because you're blind and you're like, if I fall down, they don't pick me up in time, I'm going to drown in this thing.
I've had to jump into multiple pools into a pool multiple times wearing a costume like that, where you're like, you can't see. Yeah. And your mouth is covered with foam. So it's, imagine like if you had a sponge, like a dish sponge over your mouth underwater, because then what happens is when you come up when your head is above water, you still have a wet sponge in front of your face. So you can't breathe right away. You have to wait a second before or after you unsubmerge from the water. It fucks with your mind, but it's fun.
That's intense. Yeah, what else do I love from Comic-Con? I don't know, man. It's always good. I love the days where you're like, I'm going to go to Artist Alley, and I'm like, great, I'm going to fuck off, and I go and get really lost, and I like find like really weird things in the depth, and you're like, is anybody else seeing this booth? Like, is anybody else?
It's like an old Asian man is like, "Come, McLean," and you're like, "Me?"
Yeah, yeah.
Then you're like, Matt, you got to come see this booth. And I go back and I'm like, that booth has been vacant for 20 years.
Exactly. But I love finding the weird stuff that you can find that you're like, man, this is actually, or like the toys. Like I've been able to find really cool, like one-off toys. I got my Ed 209. I got one of my really cool RoboCops. Like I always
we were hunting for that RoboCop. I remember that.
Yeah, and I was trying to get a deal on it. You always find weird bootleg DVDs. Like there's always just something cool to find. And I love like I said, I'm not the biggest art collector, but I love pouring through it. And like we went and found who's the guy who does Shaolin Cowboy?
Oh, Jeff Darrow.
Jeff Darrow. We're sitting at his booth and he's just there. He's like, hey guys, what's going on? It's like Jeff Darrow sitting right here. You want to do an interview? He's like, no, not really. And we're like, oh, okay. that was funny. He didn't want to do an interview. But then but like looking at his art, like real art is fucking incredible.
I have one of my best Comic-Cons was the one that sadly cousin Mike couldn't come to, but you came for, I think, the whole thing. And I think you and I had different hotel rooms because of the logistics.
Oh, yeah.
But we walked in, we're doing all this great stuff. I went to a really exclusive art dealer and he had all these Frank Miller prelims from Dark Knight Returns. And I fell in love with them. And I actually had been amassing a war chest to buy a Frank Miller piece. And I'm talking like thousands of dollars. And these pieces were significantly cheaper. And it was Dark Knight Returns, which if I could have one type of Frank Miller, that's what I'd want. And it was Dark Knight Returns, not Dark Knight Strikes Back. I can go into a whole thing about that. But I remember we're looking and I'm like, shit, man, that's great. But it was the first day. And I was like, I'm going to think about that. And I didn't think about anything else. We had interviews. We went to parties that night. And the whole time I'm like, I hope that piece didn't sell. I hope that piece didn't sell. Oh, I hope that piece didn't sell. And I woke up the next morning and was like, Rumi, I got to go there first because I was now worried that they sold that piece. And when I got there, they sold it. Yeah. Oh, and it's on the wall. And it is one of those things that literally every time I look at it, I fucking smile. I'm so happy to own that. I got that and I got a Dylan Punisher from him the same day. But like, that was one of those like amazing acquisitions. And we had great interviews. I got some other great stuff. Nothing was cooler than that. And I'm just so fucking happy and proud to have that.
This is also the first year where I feel like if I went, I would have been able to like pick something really awesome. Like art wise, or yeah, if I had gone this year, because again, like I'm better. Like when the first year I went, I had no money. I'm still living paycheck to paycheck. Like now it's like I'm pretty comfortable, and I think
you're a human.
I think I could actually like find something cool and bring it home if I wanted to. I always find the coolest T-shirts there. Like I still have this Thing T-shirt that's all like pink and red and purple.
Oh yeah.
People every time I wear it, people are like that shirt is bitchy, and I was like, that's the thing, And like I've never even heard of it, but that shirt is amazing. Like I love wearing that shirt.
Every year, I try to premiere a shirt because I get off thinking that I'm the only person that has a specific shirt. And I love the costume shirts, right? And I love to have one that nobody else has. And I've done that a couple times.
Let me explain a costume shirt real quick. You guys have all seen the one that looks like you're wearing a tuxedo, but it's not. It's a T-shirt. Teehee. That's what Matt's talking about when he says a costume T-shirt. But it's like you're not actually Wolverine. You're just wearing a hoodie that looks like Wolverine, or like a hoodie that looks like
a blue T-shirt that's got the Superman emblem on the chest.
Yeah.
And it's like that's fucking cool. I have. I love it. It's the only fucking shirts I wear. And
that's Matt's thing for sure.
I don't want to get just Superman. I want to get Bizarro, or I want to get what's it called? The Justice was it Justice? Injustice Superman. Like I want the ones that are off the beaten path. I got specifically from Etsy or something. I got a David Finch Moon Knight shirt. I don't even know if I showed you this or told you this, but I cut holes in it and had my friend Nicole sew flesh colored fabric behind it So when I wear it, it looks all ripped up and like you can see my chest, but it's not really my chest. So I think it's appropriate to wear it in elementary school. Even though everyone says, why do you have rips?
Here's what you should have done. You should have bought one of those like ripped chest t-shirts. That, like,
I thought about it.
And then worn that on top of it.
I thought about it, but I thought it'd be too big, too many shirts. But like I love to wear those for the first time at Comic-Con and be like, look at me, everybody. And only once did I do that. And someone else the same day had the same shirt. And I'm like, damn it. And I know I might not be the only, like this one I made, so probably it's just me. But like Bullseye I wore one year and someone else later in the con had it. And I was like, oh, lame. I just got one for me and my friend of the show, Steve Prince. We always pretend like we're not the biggest fucking nerds in the room, and we always are. I got him a shirt that says Superman, and it says Superman in the 90s animated series Spider-Man font. And it's got Batman crouching on top of it. So it's all three references swapped. It's fucking, I laughed out loud when I saw it. So I was like, all right, I got to buy one of those.
That's something my wife would do as a joke. And when I tried to protest, she'd be like, gotcha, bitch. And I'm like,
I love it.
Because she'll be like, oh, are we good? Yeah. Because I was excited about like Halloween Kills or something. And she's like, yeah, that Jason Voorhees. And I turned around like, and she just had this look on your face like, got you. I got you. So I was like, damn it. Halloween, except in the third one.
Kent is super into Spider-Man right now. And he's just kind of discovered Black Spider-Man. And he's like, Amanda's like, that's Venom. I was like, no, Venom is a different character. She's like, but that's Venom, right? I was like, no. That's Spider-Man, but he's got a suit on. And I start to explain it. I was like, it's an alien. So he's got an alien costume. She goes, is the alien costume Venom? I said, technically, no. He has to go on a different guy and they become Venom. She's like, all I want to know is if it's Venom. And I was like, babe.
Just say yes. Yes, it is Venom. It is Venom. In 100, like, that's not like, it is Venom. It's not Venom yet. But it is Venom.
It's like, almost Venom.
But the symbiote.
Pre-Venom.
The symbiote is called Venom. Like he picked that name. It's not like Eddie Brock was like, hey, my name's Venom. Like the symbiote was like, so? I am Venom. Why do you think all the symbiotes have like weird names about poison? They pick their own names.
Because they're fucking copycats.
Yeah, exactly.
They pick their own names.
Yeah, Venom's his own beast, man. It's a sentient creature. And he was just mad that Spider-Man didn't want him. Speaking of, do you remember the comic series that Black Suit Spider-Man first appears in?
Secret Wars?
Yeah. Did you just see that they announced Secret Wars as the 7th Avengers film or whatever? Like it's going to be in phase 6.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they're doing Dynasty of Kang, which is a Kang the Conqueror thing. Fantastic Four, Dynasty of Kang, and then Avengers Secret War. Which
I'll wait till I'm
be cool
48 to see those movies.
I know. But the Secret War is one of those weird ones that shouldn't work, but it does. It's actually like a pretty good series.
Fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, it is what it is. Talking about all those phases, Hall H. So at Comic-Con, there's different, you can buy a pass to get in, right? Yeah. When you work in an industry or in a tangent industry, you can register as a professional, and there's like a verification process that they do. I've always been a professional. And then now that we have the podcast, we can register as press. So you can get these complimentary badges. The badges that you get for any of those things don't really entitle you to anything special, except it's complimentary. So Rumi and I have press badges. If you bought your badge, there's no real difference between what we can or cannot get into, except certain events have a press line or a press membership, or, if you are a comic or a publisher or a manager or whatever, you get all the press contact lists. So you could reach out to us to try to schedule email interviews and shit.
Spammed all day.
Ridiculous. It's a ton of stuff. But like I comb through that because every once in a while there's a Lou Ferrigno or something like that mixed in with indie publishers that, aren't necessarily our audience or whatever. But as a professional, there's something called a professional lounge, which is literally just like a small meeting room with tables and lemonade and water where you could like sit down and rest your legs. It's a regular Joe couldn't get in there. That's all professionals get that regular people don't. Yeah. And the press, I don't think I've ever been in it, but there is a press room which I think is supposed to be so that you can upload articles and stuff like that. I think
it's got its own Wi-Fi
news hub, right? Mm-hmm. So, but like we don't need to do that because we don't usually do that from the con anyway. So those badges don't necessarily get us into anything special. The only thing it might work, and I've done this before, where you're like, oh no, I'm press. And as long as the person I'm telling that to doesn't realize I'm not supposed to be doing that, sometimes they let you through shit. But like that usually doesn't happen. There was a year, me, Mike, and Gary, who's Mike's friend, we were walking next to Hall H, and all we wanted to do was get back into the exhibition floor, like the actual floor of the con. We weren't trying to get into anything. We just wanted to get into the building. But they do these big like traffic stops where they stop, pedestrian thing to let Hall H in because it's this massive movement of people. Yeah. So we're like waiting, and we see a door that's open, and there's a security woman standing there. So we're like, oh, let's just walk in there. We'll get through that way. That way we won't have to wait for this line to move. So we walk in there and we hold up our badges, and she looks real quick and she's like, you guys know the deal, right? We're like, yep. We walk in and we're in fucking Hall H. And we're like, whoa, we just accidentally took the best wrong turn ever. We didn't mean to go in, but now we're stuck in there because like we don't want to leave because it's Hall H. So we just pop a squat, and it was WB's release schedule for the year, including Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice with the first extended trailer. So it's not necessarily anything that I necessarily like really cared about, but it was pretty, like you said, it's pretty cool to sit there with a bunch of people who are shitting themselves about seeing that.
And you just walked into the room that people literally camp on the street and shit themselves for.
Right. So there was two or three, there was 3 people outside who couldn't come in because we accidentally walked in.
There are literally stories about people wearing diapers so they didn't have to leave line to go see Hall H, which is crazy. Stupid. I was really bummed that I missed the Hall H stuff this year for Walking Dead. I saw that Hio de Santo, El Hio de Santo, the son of Santo, was there. I'm a huge Mexican luchador fan. I love Santo movies, Blue Demon movies, Teneblas. I love that stuff. And he was there this year, and it was awesome because he's wearing the silver mask. He never takes off, but he also had like a silver like medical mask covering. So like he was COVID compliant.
That's pretty good.
Badass. It's like Santo's there, and like again, I know it's not the original Santo, but that's still like meeting Batman. Even if it is Dick Grayson Batman, I still get to meet Batman. Even if it is the Nightwing taking over the cowl, I'm still meeting him. That's fucking cool, right? Like. Yeah. I would have loved to met him. The last podcast on the last had a booth. They were going to be there in public, and I could have gone and bothered them. That would have been awesome. I want to bother those guys. That's your favorite podcast, man. They're like the Nas of podcasts.
They're having a podcast right now, and they're like, oh, good thing not all those idiots came and bothered us.
I know, right? A lot of things.
What I love to do that we usually, and I think this speaks to our roominess, is, and I was looking through these the other day, there's all these beautiful, cool, nerdy photo ops, right? Like there was one year when one of the new Star Wars movies was coming out, and there's this like blue lightsaber, Luke's lightsaber, or I guess Rey's lightsaber, suspended in the air, and you're supposed to go under it and hold it above your head, and your friend takes a picture of you. Me and Rumi do shit like that, where like one of us lays down on the table in front of that, so it looks like he's about to get cut in half. There was one with Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. And we set it up so that one of us was holding it and the other one was getting clocked in the face with it. Yeah. And like some of those are real photo ops.
What about the fucking, it was the land speeder from Star Wars. But for
That's
children,
the one I was going to say.
And it's me trying to climb into it, and the person who runs the booth like, no, stop
it was like, it was a pedal or a battery operated Luke's land speeder from A New Hope. And it was literally, we were like, we said like, is this just for children? And they were like, yes, you fucking idiots. Look how big it is. And then I was like, well, could he put one foot like he's going to go in and you act like you're going to stop him? And they laugh because like, how often does someone get asked that? So they're like, yeah. So we have these pictures of these 2 women telling Rumi to stop and grabbing him as he's trying to get into this tiny ass land speeder. I love that shit.
How about when we walk past Beyblade, which is like a tops battling thing, and they had children like battling tops, and you and me were like trying to get some action going there. We're like, $5 on $5 who wants it, and just like trying to get like an adult, and like some guy's like, that's my son, and you're like, Yeah. Well, if you believe in
He
him,
can make us some. He could both make us both some money.
yeah. Do you believe in him? Hook me up with some of that cash, bro. Where that money? Yeah, you got to put your money where your mouth is. Like nobody
That
picked me
shit.
up on that
That
Beyblade
shit
action.
is funny. That's
Um, Oh my god, the time that I went and saw the Alex Ross Universal Monster painting,
mm,
and they had like a little like museum. I don't know. It was like a gallery.
that's how his booth is every year.
It's
It
a
literally
big
is a gallery you go walk.
and you
through.
walk through it, and it was these gorgeous. And I made such a big deal about how much I love these paintings, and my wife has bought me 3 of them so far. Like
Prince.
Prince, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I was like,
not,
I was like, holy shit.
not the original, but I mean, the prints are expensive. There's only 50 of them.
This is a Giclée, but it's still a print, and it's like
Yeah. There's
expensive.
Giclées. They're Giclées prints of the Universal Monster one, so they have paint on them, and they're signed by him. And
Right.
There's only like 50 of them. There's not that many
They're
made.
beautiful. This is an Alex Ross right here, and this is one of the few non-original pieces I have. And it, like Rumi says, if you look close, you could see the layers of paint on it because the Giclée is one of the most authentic recreation methods for reproducing an art.
I have Frankenstein Creature from the Black Lagoon, and then the one she got me this year for Christmas was the big like compilation where all the monsters are like fucking people up, like throwing dudes in the air, and I'm like, I still gotta get that one framed. But it's gotten to the point where like the frames cost almost more than the painting does, and you're like, so like I have like a whole stack of things I need to get framed, but it's like, oh god, framing's so expensive. When
Yeah.
when I have so much bitch and art, I don't know what to do with it.
Oh God. Yeah. This has been cathartic. Like,
Yeah,
I will probably now go take a bath and cry in it because I'll think about all these things that we just talked about that we're not doing. But
what about when we went to the dance party and I was like, dance my ass off? Yeah.
I've never been to a party before or after that. Let me think. I've never been to a dance party before or after that. But not only is that one of my favorite Comic-Con things I've ever done, that is by far, I'll say top 5 Roomy things to watch you just fucking dance. If you guys have never seen Aaron dance before, and it's not that he's a bad dancer. It's just like,
I'm not a good dancer, but I dance with a band. That's what it is.
Complete abandon. I don't think I've ever watched someone have more fun dancing than Roomy.
I let the music take me. I don't know where it's going to take me, and I've never been trained in how to let the music take me, but I let it take.
I have pictures and also visual memories of the people around you watching you dance. And it's just like I think Rumi is a very fun person. And I think he's almost infectiously fun. And when you watch and hang out with him, you can't help but have a good time. It's part of why I love him. That shit happens on the dance floor too.
Oh, yes. Just wild. And then people don't know whether to like be afraid or like cheer or join in. You know, why not?
Shit, you know what I just remembered? Rachel 2. Remember our other intern, Rachel 2, who we'd always hook up with?
Yeah, she showed up.
Let's see what she's up to.
She was having fun.
She was an intern at Creature. What was I doing? Not Creature Effects. B2 Effects when I was doing Grimm. And then she was working at some place doing makeup there, and we hooked up while we were down there. And she was one of those like, yes, I'll hold the recorder and take pictures of you guys while you're interviewing and doing stuff. That might have even been the first year. And she just turned into one of those things where every year I would meet her. I think she even came to the auction one year. She's a cool tiny little chick. She like weighs 4 pounds. She's funny as hell. And she was like just down to clown, like whatever whatever we were doing. She's like, okay.
Yeah, we had some fun, man. That was really good. Good times. The party was good. Remember when we ran to the guy who played Green Arrow? And
and we were like, can we take a picture? And his girlfriend was like, sure.
Yeah.
And did he say yes and she said no?
She said, yeah, come here. And he's like, no.
And he was drunk as fuck.
Yeah, you could tell that she was like, oh yeah, totally. And he was like,
yeah, we probably could have got more than a picture out of the deal.
I couldn't know. And like, I get it. You don't want to be that guy who like takes a picture and he's like, and like totally getting wrecked. But it was funny. And like, I'm not even mad about it. Like, because I think he would have if he wasn't Trizashed.
Oh yeah, and he was Trizashed. He was not Robin Hooding anything that night.
No. Yeah, I want you to do that William Tell trick. I want you to shoot an apple off my head. And he's like,
She would have been like, yeah. The girl. That was when I think we were on our way to or from the dance party, and they were walking out of another party.
I got to tell you my favorite Comic-Con moment ever. Do you remember when we met a fan there? Like somebody who's like, yeah, I came down here and I knew you guys were around. And it's like, I got to say hi. And it was like,
was it Brian Ivanhoe?
It was Brian Ivanhoe. Yeah. Big shout out to that guy. He's the first time we've ever met a fan in public. Because we shoot remotely and do all this remote stuff, like we were together, and it was that we had just finished up famous doing
for our first Famous Monsters.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, hey, I was here to see you guys. And it was like, what? And it blew us away because we had never met somebody in public that was like, I know who you guys are. And,
and we kind of knew him because he's a pretty vocal fan. He comments on stuff and responds to stuff and everything. So we knew him from social media and stuff. But to see him in person and be like, hey guys, I'm Brian Ivanhoe, we were like, how cool.
And he's like, you guys have met fans before, right? We're like, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
No, it was the first time.
That was cool.
That hadn't been over the internet or through social media. It was really fun, and that was really cool. Since then, I've met a few. I was on set once, and somebody knew my podcast, and they're like, "Oh man, Ruby from the Launchpad." It was Josh Rizzo, who ended up making his own podcast. Shout out to that guy and Benji too. But it was so funny because my boss was there and like, what the literal fuck is happening right now? You have fans? He's like, I just thought you had like a bullshit thing that you and your buddies did. I was like,
you're not incorrect, but
yeah, I was like, but people listen and
people like Dick Pizza. What am I gonna? Dude, that was also, I forgot because that was our first panel, which we were writing. Like, it was what it was, but we loved it and it worked and it was packed. We met our fan. Then you had to leave. You went somewhere. Me and Mike helped Phil from Famous Monsters drag all this equipment way the fuck down. And then they had an after party. At the after party, I was able to hook up with Roger Jackson and confirm. He called me and confirmed that we could fuck with you the following week or two for Scream. Then I went back to the after party and I'm fucking flying, so excited. And our first panel with Famous Monsters was largely about a comic book that they were producing. Yeah. And the artist was there and I was talking with him and I was like, yeah, I like your style. I like what you're doing. And he was like, well, he clearly was testing me and he was like, what do you like about it? I was like, well, I like how you use the shadows. Like for instance, in the page that you did with the car for this one, it kind of is similar to the last comic book you did where you did this. And I could see him be like, you actually know what I've done before. You looked it up. So I'm talking about it. And I think he thought I was blowing smoke up his ass about, oh yeah, your art is good. But I was like, no, I like how you did this. The style fits because of this. And like you did before, he was like, that's it. I'm putting you guys in the comic. And me, you, and Mike are now in the nice comic because of that. Yeah. I was like, it was just a great fucking night. It was so cool.
Yeah, it's so cool that through this podcast and through Comic-Con, we've been in several comic books now.
I'm bucking a buddy at Marvel to put me in a comic book. And I'm like, please, it's a dream to be in a comic. He's like, haven't you already been in like 4 comics? I was like, yeah, but not a Marvel or a DC. I want to get in Marvel or DC. It's like, but I have been in a couple comics before.
Isn't that great? That's fucking great. We're awesome. Well, as bummed as I was, I'm happy now, in a good mood. It's going to be great. Guys, if you went to Comic-Con and you want to sell me your NECA con exclusive, hit me up. Hit us up on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at LaunchpadPod, and our website, launchpadpod.com. Rumi, let's blast this thing off.
If you guys are still at the con, have fun.
Yeah, drive safe, fly safe, get home safe, and let us know your spoils. Tell us what you saw. Did you sleep in line? Did you wear a diaper the whole way?
Did you get farted in your face while waiting in line? That's how you know you've made it.
Oh, we're the Rocketeers and we are out.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5,